Welcome to another episode of Education Diary Zimbabwe, where we discuss progress in the implementation of SDG number 4 in Zimbabwe since 2015. And today we are discussing an issue of gender disparities in education. How do we, end gender disparity in education? And my name is Clement Lizio. I will be your host. I'm joined here by a gentleman and two ladies to discuss this interesting issue. Let me start with the gentleman. May you introduce yourself?
Thank you, Mr. Lizio. My name is Taunga Nandoro. I am Director of Communications and Advocacy in the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education.
Let me come to you.
Thank you for having me. My name is Rudoma Gwanyata, Advocacy and Research Coordinator, Shangware Mwanaskana.
And lastly.
Thank you. I'm Chantal Wolford. I'm from FASET, where we advocate for the young people in the rural and farming communities to have equal education as their peers in the urban areas.
I like the issue of the farming communities because mostly, we focus on the urban girl child and forget the farming communities. But coming, Mr. Ndoro, to gender and education in Zimbabwe, what are some of the milestones that we have registered as a country to make sure that there are no gender disparities in terms of access to education here in Zimbabwe?
Thank you, Mr. Lizio. The Ministry of Primary, in fact, government through the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education has made it mandatory that we have all our learners in classroom from 3 years up to 18 years. It's mandatory. It is actually government policy. And we have a specific and deliberate thrust towards having the girl child, particularly because of the disadvantages that the girl children normally face in the families and in society. So we have actually made sure that the girl child comes back to school. We've had a lot of outreach programs in which we are calling this girl child to come back and complete her education and do whatever she wants to do after she has completed at least her basic education. What makes it more exciting nowadays is that the law itself supports us through the Education Amendment Act of 2020, where even girls who are young mothers and perhaps they're 16, they can still come into formal education. Even girls who fall pregnant and they're perhaps 17, they can still be in our formal education, and this is the law. So the ministry is actually implementing the law, so we're being supported by the law to ensure that girls complete their basic education. Thank you.
Coming to you, Rudo, maybe what can you say these are the milestones that we have achieved as a country to make sure that the girl child comes back to school? Mr. Ndoro talked about policy, but what are other issues that you can speak to say that we have tried as a nation?
I think recently I was reading an article from UNICEF which highlighted on how there's been an increase in girls in school. You would find way before girls would actually drop out of school and then they are married off or so you find more and more girls are enrolling in school. They are not giving up on education no matter what the circumstances at home are, and also we have parents supporting and looking at how our generation, my parents have been and I take and but then you find isusu as we are growing older, there are doctors, lawyers. So as a nation, I think we have filled the gap in empowering Mwanaskana kutaenda uchikoro.
Regaitinzi unashandewo kubva ku farming community uko kuti zokufamba sei vari kuenda ari kuchikoro vanasikana.
Okay, so they mentioned that now they've set more policies, and the law with the Education Amendment Act empowers the girl child to go to school, but on more of a community level, we've also managed to kutaura with the girl child to show them, because you see kutvana rural areas, the girls, all they think about is that I have to get married, I have to finish, I have to have a family. But now with their man, they are seeing that there's a bigger picture besides getting married. There's a bigger picture. There's a life out there besides marriage. And I think that's a big milestone, that we are managing to convince the girl child to do more with their life besides just getting married.
Yes. Mr. Ndoro,
Yes.
What is has been the challenges along the journey in making sure that there's this gender equality in terms of access to education?
The challenges have been far-reaching, Mr. Lizzie. You find, particularly as Chantal said, the girl child, it's not just her who has said, I need to go and get married. It's actually the society, the patriarchal society,
Yes.
which then says, after grade 7, what does a girl child, why should I continue to pay school fees for a girl child? So the girl child then realizes that, so for me to survive or to be someone, I then need to go and get married. It's not necessary for me to go through to secondary education. Even when they pass, some of them pass with flying colors. But by the time they pass with flying colors, they're already pregnant. But there are opportunities for them to progress to A level, to progress to university. Then they say, no, I think my duty now is to be a mother. Or the society, the patriarchal society, will then say, no, wangu mukadzi zvatopera zvechikoro paari ipapapo zvakwana. And yet, that is a big disadvantage. That could be the husband actually saying, you are not going to progress with your education because now you have given birth, now you need to do your motherly roles. But we are saying, as government, as the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education, no, the girl child can still continue with her education. She continues with her education beyond the basic education, goes to higher education, tertiary education, actually masters a skill, and also contributes to the socio-economic development of the nation, such that it does not just become a nation of patriarchs. You will be surprised these days that there are a lot of females who are gonyet drivers, heavy truck drivers, others are electricians, others are miners, and they'll be wearing overalls. You cannot really tell the difference that is this a man or is a woman. When we're constructing our roads, as the president is always alluding to, when look at who is actually building the country, you find that quite a huge percentage are females who are building that country. And it starts from providing them with basic primary and secondary education through to higher and tertiary education so that they may be able to acquire the skills that give us socio-economic development.
Rudo, wamanza mastoko abandoro.
I actually agree with what he's saying, and also to add on to what he said, I think one of the challenges that we have as a nation is the economic hardships. School fees are higher, and then situations at home are not allowing Kutumberek a sacrifice the little that he or she has Kutumanainde Kuchkoro. So therefore we're having boys and also girls, mostly girls, dropping out of school. We have a scanner very underaged Kwatnogara who are maids right now. You find Kutumuna, Chidam scanner, Ndudam scanner Mdik, at that time 16 years, and Yatoshanda. So you start wondering, Kuti. Kana ari kushanda ari pamba penyu, what more about kwenda kuchikoro? How is she gonna help vana pamba penyu with homework? So you see kuti economic situation in Zimbabwe is actually affected vasikana vaende kuchikoro. Both kumbone ngonyanzva dzimningina akatarisa sisi vari kuHarare, vari kushanda kuHarare. Of which chiona sisi vachiona, she's a 14-year-old who is supposed to be in school getting an education. So I think that's one of the challenges that we have in Katninike, Zimbabwe.
And coming to you, Chantel, what are some of the specific challenges that the girls that are in farming communities are facing in terms of access to education?
Okay, so I would agree with what both of my fellow panelists have said, that we have social challenges and economic challenges, where firstly for social challenges, there are social norms and cultural barriers that are there for the girl child. They are already, especially in the farming communities, the parents themselves didn't go to school. They don't see the importance of education. So that to then convince a mother that your daughter needs to go to school, they don't understand that. And now the daughter already has the mentality that the parents have. So because due to these barriers, it's a huge challenge that is there for the girl child. And besides this mindset, there's also the economic challenge that is there. The children, the girl children specifically in the farming communities, don't have the same opportunities that those in the urban areas have. They don't have the opportunity to go to get proper education, and then they just think that education doesn't matter. It's not a big deal. Yes.
Yeah, that is the situation in the farming communities.
Yes.
Mr. Ndolo,
Yes.
COVID-19 came.
Yes.
And how did it affect the access to education for girls?
Thank you for that one. COVID-19 was a disaster for our education system, but also it was a blessing in disguise, because we learned quite a lot in terms of how to then prepare ourselves in emergencies, and to prepare ourselves to make sure that education does not stop, learning does not stop during that time. But our major setback, particularly with the girl child, was that for at least almost a year, schools were closed, and we had COVID-19 induced lockdowns. The girl child became very vulnerable, particularly to those within their community and those within their own families. An uncle, a stepbrother, a nephew, and they became open or prone to sexual abuse. Some of it would look like it's not sexual abuse because they've been enticed, but then by the time we try to reopen schools, when we reopen schools, most had fallen pregnant, some of them had already become mothers, and then there was this, now I'm a mother, should I go back to school? Is it still necessary? I'm pregnant, should I go back to school? So these were some of the challenges that really hit us because of COVID-19. This is when we actually then realized that the school setup, the school system is a very, very good protector, particularly for the girl child. We're able to monitor them at least for over 9 months, a year, to know where she is, what she has done, and then at least we then leave the parents with at least just a few weeks of the holidays in August and April. But we then got to learn a lot. So when they then came back, lucky enough, the reopening of schools coincided with the implementation of the Education Amendment Act of 2020, where we said, look, it doesn't matter whether you fell pregnant, you had a baby during COVID-19, still come back to formal classroom, not the non-formal, where they'll be corresponding and so on and so forth. We're saying come and sit on the desk, put on a uniform like the others, and continue to learn. So in that respect, I think the government of Zimbabwe, through Parliament, I think passing that bill was a huge milestone in ensuring that we have the girl child continue with their education for the socio-economic development of the nation.
Thank you. We are discussing gender and education, and specifically we are looking at issues that are affecting girls' education. But we are taking a break. We'll be coming back to you shortly.
Do you have water? Okay, it's fine.
You want water?
Yeah, only 10 minutes away.
No, it's fine. Don't worry.
All right.
So,
Yeah, I'm good. Have you taken a rest?
some briefing on what's going to come next.
Yeah, what's going to come next is we are going to discuss more on the
Impacts of COVID-19.
COVID-19.
yeah, but you have introduced the
Yeah.
issue of girls falling pregnant, and the policy that you have spoken about, and we now want to see the practicability in the constitution that you are operating
Yes.
in. You get what I mean? Is it practicable? Is it happening?
The Education Amendment.
Where we're saying girls who would have fallen pregnant are going back to school. Do the schools have the necessary infrastructure? Are the schools receptive to the girls? That what is the situation in terms of the attitudes of the communities, attitudes of the school authorities, attitudes of the girls themselves, and attitudes of the other learners in general? Then we close because we want to balance the gender. We close by looking at also the boy child.
Of course.
Okay.
So.
So maybe as we continue, you can also highlight the names of our guests here.
Yes, yes, yes.
Then you continue.
Yeah.
And as we continue, who are going to ask the question first?
I'm going to ask Rudo.
Okay. So, at the count of 3, 2, 1, rolling.
Welcome back to your show, Education Diary Zimbabwe, and today we are discussing gender and education, and specifically issues that affect girls' education. And my panelists is made up of Mr. Ndoro, Shandel, and Rudo. Rudo, when we went for the break, we were discussing about the effects of COVID-19 to the girl child accessing education, and Mr. Ndoro had brought in an issue of girls getting pregnant. What is the situation in your constituents?
The situation in our constituents is that it's unfortunate that most girls are falling pregnant from the period that we had COVID-induced lockdowns. And with the Education Amendment Act being made into law, one thing that we realized is that most girls were not aware of it. You would find that through our work, we'd see girls at home with their babies, and through our conversations, especially in our Dandara, you would ask them, why are you at home, not at school? They don't know what the act says. And then you'd find that there's some fear. You know how community is. She's a bad influence altogether. So for her, achisangana nestigma mu community, she starts wondering kuti ndikaenda kuchikoro, how is the environment kaenda swika kuchikoro. And also you find kuti my teachers, when they go to work, mostly female teachers, she doesn't leave the jacket ramai packet anopinda muschool yard ari amai, and then she starts criticizing mwana apinda muschool gate. So it's quite a hostile environment for munhu achangobva mukusununguka ada kudzokera kuchikoro. And the situation again is ndikaenda kuchikoro, who's going to babysit? Because parents find it hard kuti mwana wangu ane mwana. There is some emotional trauma in it kana mai, and then kungosiya mai nemwana wako when we know kuti ndakaita nhumbu, it's not acceptable kumba. So it's quite difficult kuti ndinosiya mwana nani. If only we could have facilities whereby there's my creches or my babysitters for those girls kuti uyane mwana wako kuchikoro, there's a classroom with a teacher anoswera nemwana wako whilst in class, kana iri nguva yenursing she can go and nurse mwana wake during break time, and then she goes back to class. So I think we need more awareness, more education, more information dissemination kuchikoro mu community. It's okay kana mwana aita nhombo, ngadzokere kuchikoro. Life does not end with getting pregnant at 15. There is life after pregnancy. Mwana anofana kuenda kunodzidza. She can be a doctor whilst being a mother. We've seen my mother that she graduated recently from UZ and MSU. So it's very possible. It's not the end of the world. It's not the end of your journey as a student.
I see, Shandel, you're nodding. Maybe you want to come in as well.
Oh, yes, I'm agreeing with that she says, especially in the rural communities. Yes, the Education Amendment Act has been passed, but there's no information about it. There's no awareness. They don't know, the young people in the rural areas, they don't know about the Education Amendment Act. And I also wanted to comment on what Truda said about the creches and everything. I think the Education Amendment Act provides for feeding programs, but sometimes these things are just there. It hasn't been implemented. They mentioned about feeding programs where these young people can have their babies, and yes, they can go back to school, and the government will still provide feeding programs for them so that they can be able to manage between going to school and feeding their babies. But then I think we need more awareness and more implementation, and yes, we just need to educate the girl child and also to remove the stigma that is there around. And what I'll keep highlighting about the rural communities is that sometimes it's not the girl child themselves, but the parents that are the problem. Yes, we might say, yes, the girl child might want to go back to school, but the parents like, no, you've already done enough harm. So
it's a matter of attitude.
Yes, now it's the parents. They don't let the kids go on with their lives. They think, now you've made a fool of me. Now I'm an embarrassment, so you're not going anywhere. And also the first instinct when a child gets married, especially in those communities, is to marry them off, to take now akutenda now to amaivemba at 15 years old. And like Rudo said, it's not the end of the world if a girl falls pregnant at 15, we need to accommodate for that, and we need to educate not only the young people themselves but the parents also, in order to remove the stigma that surrounds falling pregnant at a young age, especially for young people still going to school.
Yeah, thank you so much. Mr. Ndoro, you spoke about the Education Amendment Act, you know, it having or being progressive provisions in terms of allowing the girl child to to go to school. And I understand right now the ministry is working on regulations, that would want to really make sure that this is implemented. How practical it is? Because we can talk of re-entry of the girl going back to school on paper, on policy, and all having all the policy frameworks there. But how practical it is in schools? Are there any schools that have already embraced this? Is it happening out there in schools?
Thank you so much for that question. You see, the Education Amendment Act itself, it's a policy guideline. How we then implement it now then comes to the education regulations through the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education. And before I even proceed, we would like all viewers to understand that the Education Amendment Act is not encouraging our girls into early sex, early marriages, falling pregnant. No. That is no. Yes. No, that's exactly what some of the parents may be thinking. It's not saying 14, 15, 16-year-olds are now free to go and indulge in whatsoever, early sex, early marriages, and so on and so forth. It's not saying that. So let's never interpret it in that way. But what we are saying is that in the event that something like that happens, in fact, on our timetables in our schools, we have timetables on guidance and counseling where we actually are giving out knowledge and education against early indulgence in sex, against teenage pregnancies, against early marriages. But you see, be that as it may, these are teenagers. Something may be happening in their bodies, and then they eventually do fall pregnant. Then we are saying, in the event that someone does fall pregnant at that age, let's not throw them away. They are not a lost cause. You will be surprised that these are our future MPs, our future ministers, whom we were saying, your education has stopped at Form 3 because you fell pregnant. You see, it is protecting the girl child so that the girl child may be able to complete her education and contribute meaningfully to the development of the nation. On how practical it is in terms of implementing it in our schools, we have got a school health coordinator at each and every school. These school health coordinators, particularly when it has to do with the girls, it will be a female teacher for obvious reasons. They are the ones that can tell that, okay, she is still in school, she wants to write her examinations, but she is 7 months pregnant. They understand the changes that may be happening in that girl's body, and they may take them aside, take them to the sick bays. Remember, during COVID-19, like I was saying, in COVID-19 taught us quite a lot.
Yes.
We had, every school has got sort of a holding bay.
I hope we maintained that.
Yes, we've maintained that. We've maintained holding bays, we've maintained our sanitizing, and so we actually gained quite a lot of lessons. So if there is something that is not right with the pregnant girl, the health coordinator, who is a teacher, a senior teacher, then takes the girl to the holding bay, and then they may be discussed, and if she has to get some rest, and then maybe later on go back to the classroom. If it's a girl who has already given birth, right, and she probably lives a kilometer or two away, she's given time off to go and nurse her baby. This is the work that we are doing, we're going to end here, but if you want to go back home, and then you can come back and you can catch us up when we will be here. So practically, we are also learning as a ministry. Remember, the implementation of this Education Amendment Act started to be in full throttle, particularly in 2022, because this is like after after the COVID-induced lockdowns. So as we are going forward, obviously, we are learning bit by bit. What do we do with this girl? What do we do with this mother? How and when can she be comfortable to ensure that she continues with her education? We also have a policy where we say if the girl is not interested in going back to the same school, right? Because this is where some of the issues may be, the stigma. You see, the familiar teacher, the familiar girls and boys who now start to taunt you that Cynthia is pregnant, and so on and so forth. We can take Cynthia from Fakosi High 1 to Glenview High 2. And we give her a place there. There nobody knows her, right? Yes, she is pregnant, but she's there for what she wants to achieve. If it's there to write her examinations or to continue with her education, everybody, they may even look at her, but they don't know who she is really. So that element of the stigma actually sort of falls away. So we protect most of the girl children when they come back to school. They are not necessarily forced to go back to the same school where they fell pregnant through or whatever. We can say, okay, there's a school which is 2 to 3 kilometers away. Perhaps you may attend that one. Thank you.
Maybe coming to Rudo and Chantel, what has been the attitudes of the other learners accepting these girls who have fallen pregnant coming back to school?
We all know how the school environment is. It's never easy. We have bullies, we have those who make nasty comments. In as much as we would say the environment is, like fellow students are okay with it, it's quite difficult because in a school environment, school children are very judgmental. They pass comments. You find good garam class, and then everyone just laughs out. It's a joke. So I think students need to understand, to be taught, it happens in life. Schools and students, so we need sensitization kunema fellow students kana children guidance and counseling guide so this is the situation. Rudo is coming back, she's pregnant, we need you all to behave in such a manner because in as much as it is a joke, it should not affect her mental health here, the pregnant student. Should not affect her confidence. It even affects how she performs in class because of those silly comments, my jokes and everything. So we need my teachers guidance and counseling before I come back to school. When they notify you despite being pregnant, she's pregnant, this is how you're supposed to act, this is how you're supposed to be accommodative. It becomes much more easier for me to come back into class, having everyone being nice to me, even ignoring that I'm pregnant. Munane numbers, any disability or anything, she's just a normal person. Let's continue the way I was, like the way the things were before I got pregnant.
Chandel.
Okay, so first I think I just wanted to comment on what Mr. Nduru said about providing maybe health. You say there's a health operator, something like that. Are you also offering the same services even for the children that are in the rural areas and farming communities? Are you also providing them with therapy like that so that...
It's at every school.
It's at every school.
Every
okay,
school.
I think that's a really nice... another step that will really help with the young people in the farming communities. I also wanted to say, I think psychological training at all levels, even for the teachers, even for the people, for the young kids that are also in the classrooms, not only the kids, but also the teachers need to be involved in this because I think the stigma is everywhere. But yeah, the Education Amendment Act provides for a lot of that.
Thank you so much, Chantel. Maybe to balance the talk, let me also bring in a few highlights of what is happening. We are seeing the girls that are the transition rates from grade 7 to Form 1 increasing in terms of girls. We are seeing transition from Form 4 to Form 6 increasing for girls. We are seeing girls even surpassing boys in terms of pass rates, and the boy child might suffer. Because we are now focusing only on the girl child. And I'm beginning to say it, Mr. Ndoro, statistics that are coming from Matebele regions actually show that when the boys actually reach a stage where they can read and write, they cross over to Botswana, to South Africa to look for greener pastures. So all I am just saying to my panelists is to say there is also need to put focus on the boy child. We have come to an end of our program. It just leaves me to thank our panelists, Mr. Ndoro, Runo and Chandel. Thank you so much for coming to the show, where we were discussing issues to do with gender within the education sector, and we were looking at issues that are affecting the girl child, looking at issues to do with pregnancy and the policies that the government has put in place to make sure that all the girls access education. Thank you so much. We meet again in another episode. My name is Clement Lizio. Thank you.